Welcome to DSEJ Home Classes, an attempt to connect learner with the instructor, a digital initiative by Directorate of School Education. So, my dear students, Namaskar. I am once again here with the new topic, and that is the angiosperms, the most dominating group of the plants existing on the earth. My dear students, angiosperms is a group of plants which the word angiosperms, which means the covered seed, that is, they have the flowers, they have the fruit with the seed, and they are the most dominating group of the living plants today on the earth, and so they are the most dominating group of the plants in the world. The angiosperm, they consist of about 260,000 species, which comprises about 88% of the plant kingdom. Now, this group, angiosperms are more successful and advanced plants on the earth. So far as the origin of the angiosperms is concerned, angiosperms are believed to have come into existence somewhere in the Middle Cretaceous period, that is about 130 million years ago. Today, angiosperms have adapted so well in the prevailing environment that they have become the most dominating group of the plants on the earth. And according to a most commonest belief, they are believed to have originated from the gymnosperms, that is, the phylogenetic tree has proceeded in such a way that Monera has led to the development evolution of Protista, and from Protista the groups fungi, plantae, and the Animalia have originated. Amongst the plantae, it was the algae to first come into existence, and then the bryophytes, then pteridophytes, then gymnosperms, and today the angiosperms are the most dominating group. Let's have the talk about angiosperms in some greater details. So, my dear students, another synonymous name for the angiosperms is the flowering plants. So, I would like to talk about the structure of a typical angiospermic flower, the typical flower. Flower, as you know, is a modified shoot and is meant for the purpose of reproduction. It's a reproductive organ in the angiosperms, and most typical, the word typical I am using because I am talking about the generalized flower. Some special flowers may have one or two structure in addition or lesser. A generalized structure of the flower can be studied well by this diagram, and this is the VS of the flower, vertical section. That is, if we cut it vertically, then we get this section of the flower. The flower consists of the outermost whorl, that is called as the sepal. This green one, this is called as the sepal. Together, all the sepals are called the calyx. And this is protective in function, that is, it protects the inner organs of the flower. The next is the corolla, the colored structure. It is always colored other than green. It is attractive in function, and together all the petals, one is called the petal, and together all the petals are called as the corolla. Then is the male reproductive organ, this one, which is called as the this one. This is called as the stamen. A stamen consists of two structures. This upper one, which is a lobe-like structure, is called as the anther, and the lower one is called as the filament. Together, anther and filament, they form the stamen, and all the stamens, the male reproductive organs as they are, they form the endometrium. Then is the female reproductive organ. The female reproductive organ is called as the carpel, and all the carpels in a flower together are called as the gynoecium. A typical carpel, it consists of this structure, which is called as the stigma, which is the landing surface for the pollen grain. Then is the tube-like structure called as the style, and this swollen structure is called as the ovary, which bears the ovule and which become the seed after fertilization and are the precursor of the future generation. So in order to understand the life cycle of the angiosperm, we must talk about its male and female reproductive organ. First, I am talking about the endometrium, the male reproductive organ which causes the microsporogenesis to produce the male gamete. So as we have just seen the anther, and this is the cross section of the anther which consists of the anther and the filament, and in the cross section, this one, we see this four-lobed structure of the anther which consists of this is the graphical representation, and this one is the original TS of the anther. How it looks like it consists of the outer layer called as the, I am talking about one lobe, and what we will talk about one lobe is true for the rest of the three lobes. Now this first outermost layer is called as the epidermis, then is the fibrous layer, innermost is the tapetum, and inside are the present the pollen mother cells. Pollen mother cells undergo meiosis and result in the formation of the pollen grains. Then the innermost structure is the sterile structure. This is the sterile structure, and this is called as the a place where the filament is held together, and this is called as the connective, as it connects the two anther lobes together. Let's see how the microsporogenesis takes place. The four lobes of the anther, they look somewhat like this in its TS, or the transverse section. The outermost layer being the epidermis, then is the middle layers, then there is the tapetum, endothecium, and when the pollen grains they mature, the walls of the pollen lobes dehisce and the pollen grains come out of the anther lobes, and it is how the microsporogenesis proceeds. Then is the megasporogenesis. As I told you, it takes place in the carpel. This is the ovary portion of the carpel, as you can see in this figure. Here you can see the micropylar end. Then there is in the center is the nucellus. Then this portion is the style, and this is the globular portion is the ovary. The ovary inside the nucellus contains the megasporocyte, and then the outermost is this one is the coat of the ovary, that is, it is covered with a coat. Then that is why it is called a covered structure. Then in the nucellus there is one megasporocyte, and what it is, that is, inside the ovary, the megaspore mother cell undergoes meiosis to form the two cells. Again undergoes meiosis to form the four cells. When the four cells are formed, out of the four cells, one cell behaves as megaspore mother cell, and the rest three degenerate. This megaspore mother cell undergoes mitosis once to form two nuclei, again mitosis to form four nuclei, again mitosis to form the 8 nucleated structure. So it undergoes 1, 2, and 3 times mitosis to form 8 nucleated megasporophyte. Then the 3 nuclei, out of the 4 nuclei at the top, 3 migrate at the upper end to form the egg apparatus, and the 3 migrate towards the lower end to form the antipodals. One from the upper side and one from the inner side. They migrate towards the center where they fuse to form the endosperm mother cell. Thus, the mature megasporophyte is a 7-celled 8 nucleated structure, because the middle two they fuse together. So this is typical of the angiosperms. Now then takes place the process of pollination. And what is pollination? This is the phenomena of transference of the pollen from the anther to the stigma. It could occur in any way. If the pollen goes from the anther of the same flower to the stigma of the same flower, this is called as the self-pollination. On the other hand, when the pollen grows from one plant to the other plant of the same type, this results in the cross-pollination. So cross-pollination occurs via the agency of the pollinators, that the pollinators, there are various types. That could be, if it is water, it is hydrophily, if it is air, it is anemophily, if it's birds, it's ornithophily, and so on. Now, takes place after the pollen double fertilization takes place. What is double fertilization? Let's talk about this. When the pollen grains have landed on the surface of the stigma, then it releases two male gametes which passes through the pollen tube and it reaches the embryo or the megasporophyte. The pollen tube releases two sperm cells, one of which fuses with the egg cell in between the synergids, whereas the other fuses with the endosperm mother cell, as a result of which diploid zygote and triploid endosperm is formed, because already the endosperm was diploid because two cells had fused with each other. In this way, there takes place double fertilization in the angiosperms, which is a unique feature among the angiosperms. This double fertilization is the phenomena which occurs for the purpose of the survival of the angiosperms in the condition when the seed is gone for the dispersal. And I will like to tell you this way, that this is how it takes place. One sperm fuses with the egg to form the zygote, one fuses with the central cell to form the endosperm, and development starts immediately like this. That is, one fuses with the egg cell to form the zygote, one fuses with the endosperm to form the endosperm, mother cell to form the endosperm, which is nutritive tissue for the next generation. Then embryo is formed, which is first globular, then it is heart shaped, then the cotyledons appear, and the full-fledged embryo is formed. In this figure, you can see how the life cycle proceeds. The flower, it gives the female gamete, it gives the male gamete, which fuses to form the male, this anther lobes, they release the pollen grains. Pollen grains are the haploid structure which produces the pollen grain produces the gametes. This megasporophyte, it forms the zygote and the endosperm mother cell. Then this is the embryo of the angiosperm, and again the full-fledged flower is formed. This is how the life cycle of the angiosperms proceeds. Now this portion, it shows the haploid generation in two terms. That is, it shows the haploid generation, that is the pollen grain as well as the egg, they are the haploid, but the major stage is passed in the diploid form. Now angiosperms is a large group, and angiosperms are broadly classified into two categories. One are called as the monocots, whereas the other are called as the dicots. Now monocots, they have a single cotyledon, whereas in dicots they have the two cotyledons. Now monocots and dicots can be differentiated externally also, because the monocots, they have the parallel leaf venation, whereas the dicots, they have the reticulate leaf venation. If you see the TS of the stem of both monocots and dicots, we find that the vascular bundles are scattered in monocots, whereas they are in the ring shaped in monocots. Roots are adventitious in case of monocots, whereas in case of dicots, the roots are taproot type and they develop from the radical portion of the embryo, because it is not necessary that the adventitious roots will arise from the radical portion. Flower paths are in the multiple of 3 in case of monocots, that is sepals, petals, androecium, gynoecium. They are in the multiple of 3, which means they are 3, 6, 9 like that. Whereas in case of dicots, they are the pentamerous, and in the multiple of 5 are the 4, like 5, 10, 15 like that. The pollen grain has a single furrow or the germ pore in case of monocots, whereas there are 3 furrows or more furrows in case of dicots. Mostly the monocots do not show secondary growth with a few exceptions, and similarly dicots show the secondary growth with a few exceptions. So these are the differences, main differences between monocots and dicots. So this is all about the angiosperms. Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and my dear students, if you have any question to ask from me, you can ask me on my phone number given at the end of this lecture. Thank you. Till then.